Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another fantastic episode of High on Energy podcast. I'm Kendra Perry. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that I really enjoy talking about. We're going to be talking about water, which is incredibly important. This really is one of the basics of health, and it's one that a lot of people are not honoring and wondering why they feel sick and tired when really it could be their water or even their water filter. So even their best attempts to filter their water could actually be making you or them sick. Okay, so today we're going to talk about why water is so important, why one of the first things that you should invest in when you want to spend some money and invest in your health is your water. We're going to be talking about water filtration, what the worst types of water filtration systems are, and these might actually surprise you because one of them in particular is a water filter that a ton of people use. A lot of people use it. So we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about what is the best type of water you should be drinking in order to be healthy, in order to have energy levels, to feel your very, very best. Okay. So guys, if you're on with me on Facebook Live right now, make sure to say, hey, let me know you're here. And I love engaging with you. So ask me questions. If you have anything that you want to ask me, I am more than happy to ask you. And remember, this live stream also goes out as a podcast on Thursdays. So if you guys want to listen to me rather than hang out with me on video, you can do that as well. It's just the High on Energy podcast, and you can subscribe on iTunes or pretty much any podcast app. It's everywhere. Okay. So guys, let's talk about first why water is so important. So this is something really important to consider. Okay. 65% of your body is actually made up of water, right? That is a massive portion of your body, right? 65%, 65%, that is a lot, okay? So if you are drinking toxic, unclean water full of chemicals and metals, and that goes in and makes up 65% of your body, do you actually think that that's going to allow you to be healthy? So hopefully, when you think of it that way, you easily come to the conclusion as no, right? It's not. It's not a way to be healthy. And it's really, really important that we drink clean water because so much of our body is actually made up of water, right? Really, really important stuff. And you might be thinking, well, my city or my town has the cleanest water in the world. We have clean water. But I'm going to counter that with, well, it's not clean water. Almost no water that is coming out of your tap is actually clean water. Okay, so what do I mean by this? So if you are drinking city or municipal water, okay, so you live in a town, you're drinking water out of a tap that doesn't come from a creek or a well, you are drinking city water, municipal water, okay? So it is not clean water because there are actually a lot of chemicals that your city or municipality is adding to your water that can actually be making you sick. The reason why they call it clean water is because it's more than likely free of organisms, parasites, bacteria, salmonella, E. coli, things that can make you sick from a microbial standpoint. But in order to do that, they are actually putting chemicals in the water to disinfect it, okay? So they are putting in chlorine. Chlorine pretty much across the board, if you were drinking city municipal water, in North America, you are drinking chlorinated water, okay? The other thing that might be in there is chloramine, which is similar to chlorine and also has the same sort of disinfectant type effect. And depending on where you live in the world, you may also have fluoride, okay? Not all city municipal water systems add fluoride, but they are all adding chlorine and chloramine. And if you don't believe me, just go Google your city waters report. It's online, it's available to the public, and you can actually read and see that they add those things to the water. And that is a big friggin' issue, okay? So this is a big issue for a number of reasons. First of all, chlorine, chloride, chlorine, chloramine, and fluoride are the halide metals or chemicals, okay? So they actually are incredibly toxic, and they actually compete with certain minerals in the body. Specifically, they compete with iodine. Now, iodine is a really important mineral for your thyroid and also for energy. Your thyroid hormone, the hormone that regulates your metabolism and gives you energy, is actually made from iodine, okay? It's made from iodine. So the halide chemicals like the fluoride, the chlorine, the chloramine, they actually compete with iodine and drive it out of the body. So this is a big reason why people have so many thyroid issues and why people are so fatigued, because they're drinking water that is actually pushing energy and down regulating their thyroid hormone. So iodine actually sits below these chemicals on a periodic table. So if we get super nerdy here, we think about high school chemistry class, we think about that periodic table that lists all the elements. They're actually in the same column, which means that they have similar properties, which means that they can confuse each other on binding sites in the body, okay? So one of the biggest reasons that people don't get enough iodine, even when they're consuming an iodine-rich diet, is actually exposure to these types of chemicals, okay? So these can go in your body and actually interfere with all kinds of different processes and chemical reactions in the body. The other thing that is really important to consider with these types of chemicals is that they have low vapor points. So they easily vaporize into gas when heated. Okay, so basically, when you have a shower in hot water that has chlorine or fluoride or chloramine in it, these will vaporize into a gas and you will actually absorb them when you're breathing or into your lungs, okay? It's pretty interesting stuff. So that is a really big deal with city and municipal water, because even if it comes from a clean source, even if you're living in the mountains like me, I live in a mountain town, but the water that comes out of my tap is municipal water and it is chlorinated. So that in itself means that you are not drinking clean water. It is not clean water. It is chemical water, okay? The other things that you need to consider with city and municipal water is contamination from metals. A lot of this water is running through pipes of different materials. It could come from copper pipes, which might be in your house. If you live in an old house, your water is running through copper. That copper can contaminate the water. There may be lead pipes. There may be iron pipes. There may be all these different types of pipes that actually leach these metals into the water. Metals are incredibly toxic. There is no physiological function, okay? There's zero, and they are going to interfere with your metabolic processes, okay? The other thing that is a really big issue for city municipal water is the leaching of pesticides, environmental chemicals, fertilizers, that sort of thing, even radiation. Radiation can be a really big factor in certain water supplies. And all these things actually get into our water supply. And when we take that water and we drink it out of the tap, you are putting those chemicals into your body, okay? The other thing, there's another issue, there is another big issue, is drug residues, okay? So this is a big issue mostly in cities, but it can also be in small towns, depending on where you live. A lot of people are taking drugs, right? They're taking prescriptions, they're taking hormone replacement therapy, birth control, cholesterol lowering drugs, blood pressure medication, antidepressants, all these things. And the residues of these drugs get peed out, and that water, that sewage water, actually goes back into the water system. It gets filtered, it goes through a bunch of filtration processes, it gets disinfected with the chlorine, but those drug residues actually will remain in your water. Really, really interesting stuff. So we are getting exposed to all the drugs that people are taking in the town or city that we live in. And right now, as far as I know, there is no city or municipality that is actually filtering for this type of water or for these contaminants in the water. So this is a really big issue. So, I have a lot of people tell me, they're like, well, I drink clean water. I'm like, does it come from a tap? It's not clean water. What about well water? That's what you might be asking about, because I know a lot of people who live in the country might be on well water. Well water has its own issues. So it may not have drug residues, but it can still have chemical fertilizers and pesticides, especially if you live in an area where there is agriculture near you. You may also have iron, manganese, or copper or cobalt. Those are metals I tend to see, and minerals I tend to see really high on hair mineral analysis when those people are drinking well water. Okay. You also have to consider that your water is running through some sort of metal pipe, whatever that is, and that could also be leaching into your water. Recently, I had a member in my High on Energy membership. Lots going on, health-wise, and she is drinking well water, and we actually found her well water to be completely contaminated in uranium and arsenic. So that's what it said on her hair mineral analysis. She was incredibly high in uranium and arsenic. And then interestingly enough, she ran a water report, and the water report also found arsenic and uranium that were several times the normal limit. And the chemist who ran the panel was blown away. Okay. So what is in your water is getting into your body. Okay. It's making you sick. This is a really big thing. When we think about reducing our exposure to toxins and metals, the most important thing is to clean our water, because the primary way that we are actually getting exposed to these things is through water. So much stuff can be in water, so many contaminants. If you've been paying attention, there can be so many chemicals, metals, environmental contaminants, drug residues, pesticides, fertilizers, chlorine, chloramine, fluoride, all these things are in the water, and then you're drinking that all at once. And it's water. It's so important. We can't live without it. We would survive such a short time without water. Remember, our bodies are 65% water, and if that is contaminated, that is a big issue. So if you are drinking any type of water, well water, municipal city water, you probably need a filter. Even myself, so I'm building a house right now out in the country, and we're going to be on creek-fed water that's non-chlorinated. It just goes through basically a carbon filter. It's going to be super, super basic. I'm still going to filter my water, right? Because there's all kinds of things that can leach into the water from our environment. Okay. So really, really important. You need to be filtering your water. If it's a well, if it's municipal, if it's city, if it's tap water, you have to filter your water. You are getting exposed to a lot of crap through the water. And I can usually tell when I run hair mineral analysis testing, because I'll just see so many metals being excreted. And I'm like, hey, are you drinking tap water? And usually the answer is yes. It's pretty much across the board, making you contaminated. And that is going to, and if you follow this podcast, if you watch High on Energy, you know that metals and environmental toxins, these sorts of things really do have a massive impact in your energy levels, and they are going to totally crush your energy levels. So water filtration is incredibly important. Now, I want to talk about water filtration, because your water filter, as is the name of this this episode, can actually be making you sick, because all water filters are actually not created equally. It's really important to have a proper water filtration system. Okay, so when you purchase a water filtration system, these are the questions you need to be asking the manufacturer. First of all, what contaminants does it filter? It should be filtering the widest variety of contaminants. So that should include radiation, drug residues, metals, copper. It should be filtering chlorine, chloramine, fluoride if it's in your water. And you can pull up your water report to check for fluoride, because it's not in everybody's water. Okay. Pesticides, fertilizers. So it should be filtering for all of those things. So the widest spectrum of contaminants, okay? But the most important thing is that it doesn't also remove minerals from the water, okay? You need to drink mineral-rich water to be able to absorb water into your cell. Without minerals, that water actually does not get into your cell. So you might notice that when you increase your water consumption, that you just pee a lot. You just pee it out. That's because you're filling up the ocean of water outside the cell, but you're not actually getting that water into the cell. So cellular dehydration is a real thing. I see it all the time. A lot of people have that going on. And if you're drinking mineral poor water, that water doesn't get into the cell, okay? Lacking minerals in water also makes water acidic. We don't want to be drinking acidic water. We want to be drinking alkaline water that is naturally alkaline from having lots of minerals in it. So this is a big reason why I always tell people to salt their water. Helps add minerals back into water, but you want to make sure that you're drinking naturally mineral rich water. And then on top of that, you want to be adding salt into your water to help remineralize it, okay? This is going to help you get hydrated in your cell. It's going to actually help you hold on to that water. Okay. So let's break down some of the most common filters. Okay. So number one, this is probably the most common water filter that I see people have, and it's reverse osmosis. Okay. A lot of people have reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis is probably one of the worst culprits for water filters. Yes, it is not a good water filter. It is definitely making you tired and fatigued, and this is why. Reverse osmosis is actually really, really good at removing contaminants from the water, but it takes all the minerals with it. So it makes dead water, mineral poor water, zero mineral water, and you can actually not hydrate yourself from reverse osmosis water. And I really notice this when I go traveling and I'm in the airport, and typically the water they give you on the plane is reverse osmosis. Like I could drink that water until the cows come home and it does not quench my thirst, and I just go into the bathroom and pee it out. Okay. You cannot actually hydrate yourself from reverse osmosis water. It is impossible. Okay. And it's really unfortunate because a lot of people have reverse osmosis. They've spent a lot of money to put that system into their house, but it is not acceptable. And a lot of people will ask me the question, well, can I actually add salt into the water or re-add the minerals back into the water? You can't. You've artificially disrupted the structure of that water, and adding minerals back in isn't actually going to help. Okay. So, it just can't be reverse osmosis. And this is a little bit of information. So Kamloops, which is a town in British Columbia, actually added reverse osmosis into their entire water system, which is really unfortunate because now if you want to drink mineral-rich water in Kamloops, you have to go buy bottled water, because if you're taking it from your tap, it is not healthy water to actually drink. Okay. Okay, so that's reverse osmosis. So reverse osmosis is a not good. Okay, so next I want to talk about distillation. Distillation basically uses heat, uses steam to remove contaminants. And distillation is actually a lot like reverse osmosis in that it is very good at getting rid of contaminants, but it also destroys the mineral structure of the water. So again, you actually can't hydrate yourself with distilled water. I do not recommend it. It's less common than reverse osmosis, but I do see a lot of people still using it. So distillation is not a good water filtration system. The next one that a lot of people have is ionizers or alkaline water systems. Yeah, again, not my favorite. A lot of them are really expensive. They're incredibly expensive, and I don't think it's a good use of your money. They are not very good at removing all the contaminants, and a lot of them actually alkalize the water by running water over metal plates, which will temporarily make the water alkalized, but if you test it 30 minutes later, it will go back to acidic. So not a very good way to filter your water easily, and really not a good use of your money. They tend to be very expensive, like I said, and they don't really get all the contaminants, and they don't actually mineralize your water very well. I actually think they're kind of hokey, okay? Because really, like just natural water, natural mineral-rich water that comes off the mountain is actually naturally alkaline from all the minerals that are in it, okay? So when it comes to filtering your water, really, really important to make sure that you are removing the contaminants, but you're not affecting the mineral structure of the water. So these are the questions to, if you're looking, and I'm going to make some recommendations. I'm going to tell you what water filter to actually buy, because I have a couple that I think are really good. And currently there's only two that I recommend, and there's one that I recommend the most. But these are the questions you need to ask your manufacturer of your water filter. First of all, what contaminants does it remove? It should remove metals, copper, pesticides, fertilizers, VOCs, volatile organic compounds, chloramine, chlorine, fluoride. If you have fluoride in your water, it's not added to all water, but definitely check your water report. Radiation and drug residues. And drug residues is a really important one because in city municipal water, everyone's on drugs. We pee it back out into the water. Super gross, gets back into the water supply. Okay, that water is just recycled. We are just drinking recycled water. We are no longer drinking water that runs over rocks and picks up minerals as it goes, right? So you want to know that, but you also want to know, does this filter like affect the mineral structure of the water? If the answer is yeah, it does, but we put it back in, that's not good enough. Okay. That's a bad sign. That is a big red flag. Okay. Because there is nothing, once you pull the minerals from the water, there's nothing you can do to really add them back in, because you've basically irreversibly affected the structure of that water. And the other thing to keep in mind is if they're adding minerals back in, they're not adding back in all the minerals. They're probably just putting some calcium, some potassium, some sodium, a few of the basic minerals back into the water, but they're not putting all the minerals back in. They're not doing it. Okay. So that's why it's really important to get a filter that doesn't disrupt the mineral structure of the water to begin with. Very, very important. Okay. So my personal favorite filter is Pure Effects filters. I love it. I absolutely love it. Best filter by far. The creator of this filter is this, he's a European dude, and he's a fish researcher, and he was trying to raise his fish and allow them to thrive so he could research them. But what he found, because obviously fish, they absorb all the water through their skin, they are very sensitive to contaminants and mineral levels in the water. And what he found was that either the water filter didn't remove enough contaminants and his fish didn't thrive, or they died, or they removed all the contaminants, but they pulled all the minerals out of the water and the fish didn't thrive. So this water filter he actually created to allow his fish to thrive, which I think is very cool. So it pulls out all the crap that we just talked about, but it does not affect the mineral structure of the water. So it's called Pure Effects filters. I'll put that in the show notes, in the chat box. And basically, just let me write that in there. Basically, it's probably one of the cheaper filters on the markets, which is why I really like it. Because a lot of them you can spend a lot of money on and they're not even very good. And if you don't have fluoride in your water, you can go with their compact version, which is their cheapest version. It's about $179 US. I have this one. It attaches to your faucet, which I love. It's not a canister filter, which you have to fill up every night. You literally just attach it to your faucet and it comes out. You can get ones that go over the sink or under the sink. The cheapest one just goes to the top faucet, but you can get ones that actually go below the sink. But if you do have fluoride in your water, then you probably want to go with the Pure Effects Ultra, which is a bit more expensive, but it will get the fluoride out of the water, because you absolutely do not want to be drinking fluoride. Now, if you live in an area that has really high uranium levels, if you have a lot of granite rock in your area, you probably want to go with the Ultra, because it will filter the uranium. Now, I live in the Kootenays. We actually live in a really high uranium area. So at some point, when I move into my new house this fall, I'm probably going to be upgrading to the Ultra filter, because I actually do want to filter out that uranium as well. But the good news is the compact does filter out radon, and uranium and radon do tend to come together. Okay. So that is a fantastic filter. Love this filter. Honestly, it makes your water taste like a glacial stream. And it's funny, like I've been drinking clean water for a couple years now. Now, when I drink, when I go to someone's house and I have a glass of water from the tap, I can't even drink it because it tastes so disgusting to me. It tastes like pool water. You will really start to notice the chlorinated water once you stop drinking it, because we get accustomed to it. But then once you actually drink it, you're like, holy crap. When I go to my parents' house in Vernon and I take a hot shower, all I can smell is the chlorine. I have to have these super short showers because I'm super sensitive to it, because I can just smell it in the air and I can feel myself absorbing it into my lungs. So really, really important. Asthma, a lot of respiratory issues are very connected to the inhalation of those volatile organic compounds like chloramine, chloride, chlorine, fluoride, okay, all those things that we're absorbing through our lungs into our water. So that is a really good filter. Now, Berkey is the other one I typically would recommend. It's a canister filter. So if you live in a rental or you can't, attach, you have an older faucet or maybe some random faucet, you need to actually fill up your water every night. Berkey is a really good option. It's not quite as good as Pure Effects, but a big Berkey is a really good option for filtration. So you want to make sure you're drinking pure water, because even if you are drinking water from a mountain creek, which not many of us are, it's still picking up environmental contaminants, because those are everywhere, right? They're in our air, they're in the rain that falls. It's not going to be as much, but I would still recommend filtering your water. Really, really important. You just can't be healthy if you're not drinking clean water. It is the most important thing. I do believe that you should invest in clean water before you should buy any supplement, before you should invest in anything else. It really should be something that we prioritize. It should be the number one thing that we bring into our life when we are trying to improve our health. And it's interesting because I work with practitioners. I do a lot of training with practitioners, and this is something that they don't even know about. So the information isn't really out there. It's not your fault that you don't know this, but we've just been told that we are drinking clean water when in fact we are drinking incredibly toxic water that is making us sick. Okay. So that's my spiel. I hope that helps, guys. Let me know what you think of this episode. Send me a comment, leave me a review on iTunes. Let me know that you like this information. I will continue to put this information out there. I love you guys as always, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.